There's a question that makes most people uncomfortable. If hard work and talent were really enough to get ahead, why are so many hardworking, talented people still invisible? Still passed over? Still watching less capable people get promoted, get the credit, get the room? Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud: competence doesn't create power. It never did. A Stanford professor named Jeffrey Pfeffer spent over 4 decades studying the most powerful people on Earth, CEOs, politicians, billionaires, and he found something that breaks almost every piece of career advice you've ever been given. The people at the top didn't get there by being the most liked. They didn't get there by waiting patiently, staying humble, and hoping someone would notice their good work. They got there because they understood rules. Rules that most of us were never taught, and some of us were taught the exact opposite of. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the nice guy strategy is quietly sabotaging your career, and what to do instead, starting today. Introduction. The book is called 7 Rules of Power, and the promise behind it is almost uncomfortable in its honesty: power is not given to the deserving. Power is taken by the deliberate. Pfeffer isn't a motivational speaker. He spent his entire career at Stanford's Graduate School of Business, watching what actually works, not what should work, not what we wish worked, but what the data and decades of case studies actually show. And that's exactly why this book struck a nerve. It doesn't comfort you. It doesn't tell you that if you just keep your head down, things will work out. It tells you the opposite, and then it gives you a way out. This video is not a summary. It's a journey through 7 shifts in thinking. Some of them will feel wrong at first. A few might even feel like they contradict everything you were raised to believe about fairness and merit. But stay with it, because somewhere between the first rule and the last, you'll start to see your own career, your own workplace, your own hesitation, completely differently. Let's begin with the very first thing standing between you and power. And it isn't your boss. It isn't the system. It's something much closer to home. Lesson 1: Get out of your own way. Most people don't fail to gain power because someone stops them. They fail because they stop themselves, long before anyone else gets the chance. We're taught from childhood that ambition is a little bit shameful. That wanting power makes you selfish, or fake, or not a good person. So even talented, capable people quietly talk themselves out of pursuing influence, telling themselves they're not that type. Pfeffer's research shows that self-doubt is often a bigger obstacle to power than any external barrier. The people who rise aren't necessarily the most qualified, they're the ones who never let hesitation make the decision for them. Pfeffer points to leaders who, by conventional standards, shouldn't have made it: people with unconventional backgrounds, awkward personalities, even public failures, who nonetheless rose to extraordinary influence, simply because they refused to disqualify themselves before anyone else could. Stop waiting for permission or perfect qualifications. The moment you decide you're allowed to want influence is the moment you start building it. But knowing you're allowed to want power is only step 1. The next lesson is where things get uncomfortable, because it means breaking something you were taught to protect. Lesson 2: Break the rules. We're conditioned to follow the process. Wait your turn. Respect the hierarchy. Don't rock the boat. And for most people, that conditioning becomes a cage. Rules are often created by the people already in power, to protect their position, not to help you rise. Following them faithfully can keep you exactly where you are. Pfeffer's research reveals that many of history's most powerful figures got there by strategically ignoring convention, skipping steps, going around gatekeepers, or refusing to wait for an invitation that was never going to come. Time and again, the book highlights leaders who advanced not by patiently climbing an approved ladder, but by creating their own path, taking meetings they weren't invited to, pitching ideas above their pay grade, or simply acting with authority before they technically had any. Identify one unwritten rule in your environment that's quietly holding you back, and ask what would happen if you broke it on purpose. But breaking rules alone isn't enough. Because even rule breakers get ignored if they don't understand something even more surprising about how humans perceive power. Lesson 3. Look and act the part. We assume power comes from results. But Pfeffer shows something almost unsettling. People respond to how powerful you appear long before they evaluate what you've actually accomplished. Human brains are wired to read confidence, posture, tone, and presence as proxies for competence, because evaluating actual competence takes time and effort most people never invest. This means the image of power often precedes, and even creates, real power. Acting composed, decisive, and self-assured changes how people treat you, which changes the opportunities you're given, which changes your results. Pfeffer describes executives who deliberately changed their posture, speech patterns, and presence, walking into rooms as if they already belonged there, and watched as colleagues who'd overlooked them for years suddenly began deferring to them. Before your next meeting, walk in as if you already have the authority you want. Not arrogance, certainty. People will start treating you accordingly. However, looking powerful only gets you in the room. What keeps you there, and keeps you moving up, is something almost nobody talks about. Lesson 4. Build your brand, relentlessly. Talented people often assume their work will speak for itself. Pfeffer's research says this is one of the most costly assumptions in any career. In large organizations, almost no one has time to independently verify your contributions. Instead, they rely on reputation, the story that circulates about you when you're not in the room. If you don't actively shape that story, someone else will, or worse, no story will exist at all, and you'll simply be forgotten. The book profiles individuals who built visible personal brands, publishing, speaking, positioning themselves as the go-to person in their space, and found that opportunities began arriving unprompted, simply because their name had become associated with a specific kind of value. Pick one skill or insight you're known for, and start making it visible. Share it, write about it, talk about it. Don't let your best work stay hidden. But even a great brand can crumble without the next ingredient, because power isn't just about being seen. It's about who's standing next to you. Lesson 5. Network like your career depends on it, because it does. Many capable people treat networking as optional, something for extroverts, or something a little distasteful. This overlooks a basic truth: opportunities, promotions, and introductions almost never come from strangers. They come from relationships, and relationships require deliberate investment. Pfeffer's research shows that the size and diversity of a person's network is one of the strongest predictors of how much power they eventually accumulate, often mattering more than raw skill. The book describes people who methodically built relationships across departments, industries, and hierarchy levels, not out of manipulation, but out of the understanding that influence flows through connection, and connection has to be built before you need it. Reach out to one person this week, not to ask for something, but to build a genuine connection you can draw on later. But here's where the book gets uncomfortable, because once you have power, you'll face a choice most people aren't prepared for. Lesson 6. Use your power, don't apologize for it. Many people, once they finally gain some influence, hesitate to actually use it, worried about seeming aggressive, selfish, or unlikable. This hesitation often comes from the same conditioning that delayed their rise in the first place, the belief that wanting things for yourself is somehow wrong. Pfeffer argues that power which is never exercised is functionally the same as no power at all. If you don't use your influence to advance your goals and protect your position, someone less hesitant will use theirs against you. The book contrasts leaders who leverage their position decisively, making bold asks, setting firm boundaries, allocating resources toward their vision, with those who held back out of politeness, and consistently lost ground to more assertive rivals. The next time you have leverage, in a negotiation, a decision, a disagreement, use it. Politely. Confidently. Without apology. And this leads to the final, hardest truth in the entire book, the one that explains why so many powerful people seem to get away with things the rest of us never could. Lesson 7. Understand that success forgives almost everything. We like to believe the world holds powerful people accountable the same way it holds everyone else. Pfeffer's research suggests otherwise. Once someone has achieved visible success, people are far more willing to excuse their mistakes, overlook their flaws, and rewrite the narrative in their favor, because success itself becomes evidence of competence in the eyes of others. This means the path to lasting power isn't perfection. It's achieving enough visible success that setbacks, controversies, or missteps get reframed as minor exceptions rather than disqualifying failures. The book points to numerous leaders who survived scandals, reversals, and public criticism that would have ended an ordinary career, protected almost entirely by a track record of results built beforehand. Focus relentlessly on producing visible wins early. They become the reputation buffer that protects you later, when, not if, something goes wrong. Let's conclude it. So here's the journey we just took. Power doesn't start with talent. It starts with getting out of your own way. It grows when you're willing to break the rules that were never designed to help you. It's shaped by how you present yourself, long before people evaluate what you've done. It's protected by the reputation you deliberately build, and multiplied by the relationships you invest in before you ever need them. It's only real when you're willing to use it. And once you've built enough of it, it becomes remarkably resilient to your own mistakes. None of this means becoming someone you're not. It means finally understanding the game that's already being played around you, whether you choose to play it or not. So here's the challenge: pick just one of these 7 rules. Not all 7. Just one. And apply it this week. Because the people who quietly hold power in your life, your workplace, your industry, they're not smarter than you. They just stopped waiting to be given permission. The only question left is whether you're ready to stop waiting too. If this summary moved you and added value, subscribe the channel and like the video.